My name is Ari Cutler, if you don't know. Nice to meet you. And I guess we'll start off to say that we have a shiur tonight, but there is no shiur next week. I will be in your hometown and Baltimore and your hometown. But the following week I'm back. It's a 10-day trip. So please God, that will be hopefully one of the last trips. So tonight, I thought to do a fascinating sugya. I'm sorry if I didn't help guide you as much as I would have liked to. But the sugya we're doing is actually in the beginning of the fourth parak of Masechet Pesachim. I think it has a lot to do with many people that want to do the right thing. I want to do the right thing. I want to just do the right thing. So, but the question is, what is that right thing of lishma? And what does it mean shelo lishma? To the point, if you saw the different gemarot, there are, especially many of us are camp counselors and madrichim and madrichot, and we've heard this concept of mitoch shelo lishma, ba lishma, right? Even though you didn't have the proper intention, we'll just translate it loosely, but there's a process, and you're gonna get to it, ba lishma. So if you look at all the different sources, it may not be so clear that we say shemitoch shelo lishma ba lishma by everything. The question is going to be, when is it shelo lishma? And it could be both within our own learning, but also I would say even when we're teaching. Let's say a kid is a real person who's just not interested. Am I allowed to teach them the Torah? Maybe not. Maybe the question is, how extreme do you have? And for yourself also. Many people, a lot of times, maybe when they're younger in their years, but they start questioning, but even now, I'm older, and I still try to keep working on my lishma, whatever we're going to define lishma. So what's my goal? What's my goal, and how do I get there, and how do I deal with some contradictory sources within shelo lishma, which I hope you saw, and if not, we're going to deal with it together. So in the introduction, we have the Mishnah Masechet Avot, which is really a braita in the first source in front of you, that says that how great lishma is. And for this year, I think we're going to focus more on the shelo lishma angle. I had other sources to give you also, but we'll stick with the sources that you have. But because I believe that even if you don't actually know what lishma is, we can focus on the different levels of shelo lishma. But just as an introduction, the braita in Masechet Avot says that Rabbi Meir Omer kol usik b'Torah lishma zochel dvarim harbe v'lo od el shekolam kulo kedayu lo, and then it keeps going. It says you're called a reya and ahuv, ohevet hamakom, ohevet habriot, etc., etc. So if you learn lishma, what is lishma? What does it mean zochel dvarim harbe? Many mefarshim say zochel dvarim harbe is this whole list in the Mishnah that you're called a reya and ahuv, and you're going to have anava and a chasid and yashar and neman, etc., etc. However, just to understand what lishma is, again, if you would look at Rav Chaim Volozhin, both in his Nefesh HaChaim but also his commentary on Avot, he has a whole long piece. I did photocopy for you. I actually have it here for you. I didn't give it out. But he says that what lishma is, that you love Torah so much that you want to know all the details, like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who didn't leave over anything from davar gadol to davar katan. But lishma is not the dveikut, for example. I'll share a little bit, which is more the Hasidic approach. But he goes on to say, as an example of how great lishma is, if you look on the bottom of the page that I gave to you, he gave it as a mashal. Ki inyan hadovrot, which is basically a small little fleet. Ha'usim bayam derech asher adam yoshev aleim umanigam lemechos hachefetz asher sham ya'aseh mehem korot binyan ukelim. So basically you have this fleet which is made up of different slabs of wood, and you're going and you put it together and you're going to your destination, and you're going to use these things of wood. You'll take it apart to be able to build something. V'kasher adam yoshev aleim umanigam lemechos hachefetz. When I'm in this fleet, when I'm in this small boat, if you will, on the river, so it's saving my life, because if not, then the river will sweep me away. And also, the slabs of wood The planks are basically helping, it's serving a purpose, and for now and in the future. Explains Rav Chaim Volozhin, אבל אם ייבדל מהם אל הים, שוב הם לא חיים, וטובע וגם להם אין מי שיובילם ויעבדו ואין להם תיקון, לצאת מגורמי עצים לצורך בניין או כלי. Right? However, if you separate from them, you separate it, then you're dead. The itzim also loses its function. אבל אם יוליכם למקומם, he's alive, and also he gets unbelievable schar for bringing there, and it'll be for shleimut. He says so too with learning Torah. Im chas v'shalom anachnu porshim mimena, ein lanu chayim, and it'll even be bizayom, and he quotes a midrash, not for now. V'im anachnu oskim b'Torah, anachnu chayim v'kayamim, and mekablim od schar, etc., etc. And he goes on to say in the second sheet, which I didn't give you, or some of you I did give, he says, that's what it means. Eitz chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomchel me'ushar. It's a really beautiful interpretation over the pasuk in Mishlei. It's like kimisha toveya b'nahar, a person who's drowning in the sea, umitchazek le'echoz ba'etz, and I'm holding on to the wooden piece. We've all seen movies like that. You hold on to the wood in order to be safe. Ken haTorah l'mi shelo mitba'u machzik ota v'kavanato is la'atzil nafsho mitavua. It's called the Torah. It's called an Eitz Chaim L'Machazik Ba. But if you Lomei L'Mana Torah L'Tamcha L'Sa'ada L'Shma L'Mana, it could be even more. It could be Tomcha Ushar. So L'Shma, whether you want to say it's like just as a definition, Zoch Dvar Maharbei of Chaim Volozhin says that you can't, maybe it's just because of its qualitative piece, it's so much. Without fully understanding Lishma, because it would take maybe a longer shiur, what is the Shalol Lishma? So it could be we have now a beautiful interpretation of what it means, Eitz Chaim Hi L'Machzikim Ba, a great mashal. What is the Shalol Lishma? Do we always say Mitoch Shalol Lishma, Ba Lishma? Look, maybe I'm not always filling up to it. Are there different levels? So you saw some of the interpretations. You saw some of the Gemaras, I hope. Right? There's contradictions. Do we always say mitoch shalol lishma ba lishma? Is there a difference between Torah and mitzvot, for example, maybe? So let's look at some of the sources. The first is in Psachim, and the second source, Rava makes a contradiction between two Psukim and Tehillim that says ki gadal ad shamayim chazdecha versus ki gadol me'al shamayim chazdecha. How could it be? Is it up to shamayim or transcend shamayim? So it says kan lishma, kan shalol lishma, and it quotes this opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, which is quoted in around 6 different Gemaras, that says La'olam ya'asok adam b'torah u'mitzvot af al pi shalol lishma shemitoch shalol lishma ba lishma. So I want to define for together. First, we always want to look at the source where it comes from. Also, I want to define when do we say what does it mean shemitoch shalol lishma ba lishma? I think the classical. Let's try to get a little more involvement. What the classical mean when we say shemitoch shalol lishma ba lishma? How have you always been taught this? What's your name? I know that. Hey, yeah, go ahead.
If you're forced to learn and study something for school, and at the end of the day you end up
Okay, that would be the classic. Mitoch shalol lishma, even though you're forced, you don't have the right intentions. Ba lishma. What's going to happen? You'll get to the right place. Okay? I'll already try to jump to the head where I didn't bring the source down for you, but I brought it down in my second edition when I was making the sources better, which is there's a Gemara in Nazir that quotes this Gemara and Daf Chav Gimel and says, where is the source of Mitoch Shalol Lishma Ba Lishma? You know where the source is? Where does the Gemara say? Balak. Balak brought 42 korbanot. Mitoch Shalol Lishma, right? La'olam ya'asok adam b'torah u'mitzvot. Shemitoch Shalol Lishma Ba Lishma. Why? Because from those korbanot, who came? Who did he get? Ruth. The Mashiach came from there. So that obviously is a major question that Rav Nebenzahl asked, that Rav Moshe Feinstein asks. In our classical thought of Mitoch Shalol Lishma Ba Lishma, we always say, do it even if you have the wrong intentions, because the bottom line is you're going to get to the right intentions. Balak seems to contradict that straight out. How do you deal with that? So let's deal with some of the sources already. So Tosfos in Masechet Psachim says, 1 second, how can you say when you do Shalol Lishma, it's not the greatest of Me'al HaShamayim, but it's still good, it's still qualitative, it's still Al HaShamayim. I have a Gemara in Brachot, and we'll see another Gemara also. The Gemara in Brachot Tosfot quotes, which is in source number 4 for you also, says what? The Gemara says, anybody who does Shelo Lishma, Kol ha'oseh Shelo Lishma, Noach lo Shelo Nivra. Person, and I'll point out, Oseh Shelo Lishma, because what's the Gemara there? The Gemara says that they had different Amoraim, had different famous or things they like to always say, jewels that they would always say. So Rava said, Tachlit of Chochmah, the purpose of wisdom is Tshuva Ma'asim Tovim. Shelo Adam Korei Vishonei Uboet. Person shouldn't be learned and then kick, literally his father, his mother, his Rebbe. Umishu Gadol Mimenu B'Chachma Minyan. Shne'amar Reishit Chochmah Yirat Hashem Seichel Tov L'Chol Oseihem. So the Gemara says, La'osim lo nemar ela la'oseim, to the people who do it lishma. But if you do it shelo lishma, then it's noach lo shelo nivra. It is better that what? You shouldn't have been created. So it says Tosas, I don't understand. Which is it? Is it better that you weren't created? Or is it mitoch shelo lishma ba lishma? We'll just throw in one other source and then I want to hear some of your answers and I'll hear your question, which I think I know what Bassett's question is. But just if you'd skip ahead, there's one other source. Where's the source? If I'm not mistaken, it's Masechet Ta'anit. Okay, if you skip ahead to page 3, and thank you for numbering the pages. That what does it say in the second source of page 3, the Gemara in Ta'anit Dav Zayin? What does it say? Haya Rabbinya Omer Kol Osek B'Torah Lishma Torato Na'aseh Lo Sam Chayim, the elixir of life. Eitz Chayim Hila Machazikim Ba, etc., etc., the Psukim, Kimotzi Matzah Chayim. V'chol ha'osek b'torah shelo lishma na'aseh lo sam hamavet, quoting from a pasuk in Ha'azinu. So which is it? Is it mitoch shelo lishma balishma? Or do we say what? Noach lo shelo nivra. It's better that you weren't created. Or it's even worse. It becomes poison. Obviously I want to know what the difference is. What are you going to say, Mr. Basson? I want to see if I was mechavin to das gedolim. Yeah. Could be. We're going to talk about it. Could be. But not necessarily. Rabbi Yehuda Morav brings them together. Brings them together. And Dafka, I was thinking that even with that Gemara, right? That Gemara in Brachot says Oseh, call it Oseh Shelo Lishma, but look at the context. It is talking about Torah. Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem. You could say, right? It says L'chol Oseim, but you could say that that's talking about Torah also. Right? The distinction, but Rabbi Yehuda Morav brings down in different Gemaras together. La'olam yasok adam Torah and mitzvot. Shelo lishma. Shemitoch shelo lishma balishma. Now, in certain point in the shiur, before I'm bunged, before we finish, right, we will maybe make a distinction maybe between Torah shelo lishma and mitzvot shelo lishma. We'll get to there. But Tos's question seems to be a good question, which is it? Is it mitoch shelo lishma balishma, givalt, or sama mavis, noach lo shelo nivra? So how would you tackle this question? Or what did you see that you want to tackle the question? Separate question. That's good. Why not? Be a good Jew. Ask a different question. Yeah.
Is there any difference between oseh and osek? Because there's
Right.
also like...
Could be.
Osek is like over... I don't know.
Osek a lot of time is you're very involved, and oseh is you're doing, maybe not as much. So I think I thought the same idea possibly, and I think the Sfat Emet may hint to that distinction, but I'm not sure. Fair enough. So Tosfot in Psachim, since we'll start with that, he says there are two types of Shelo Lishma. Right? Tosfot, the third source, we come back, quotes the Ri, and says there are different types of Shelo Lishma. V'omer Ri, the Hasam, which is the case in Brachot, of Kol ha'osek b'Torah shelo lishma noach lo shelo nivra, is when you're learning kedei li'ityaher ulekanter ulekapeach et chavirav b'halacha. Ve'eno lo min al manat la'asa. The shelo lishma there is a very, very negative shelo lishma. It's a lishma of you trying to be arrogant, you trying to be win-lose, that you win and your friends are going to lose, and not on the condition at all of la'asot.